Okay, we are live. Hi everyone, might just wait a little bit to have some more people, let them attend. Let's see, everyone's slowly coming in. Yeah, now you're unmuted.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Now and Next webinar. Thank you everyone for joining in, and I'm sure you're going to love the presentation and sharing some stories from some of the founders of the Now and Next program, and also some participants that have been involved in the first ever Now and Next in South Australia. So I'm Sam, I'm the director at Can Jump Puddles here in Adelaide, and today I'm joined with the wonderful team from Plumtree in New South Wales, and the founders of the Now and Next program, Anik Jansen, all the way in New Zealand, and Silvana Marmick from Plumtree in New South Wales. And we also have Nicole and Clayton, who are peer workers and Now and Next facilitators in New South Wales, and Martin Pomery and Susie Watcher from Adelaide, who are our inaugural facilitators of Now and Next in Adelaide. Just really quickly, we're so excited to be offering this program here. The way we found Now and Next and Plumtree was by absolute fluke when I was attending the Early Childhood Intervention Conference last year in August with my colleague Michelle Pomery, who is a developmental educator but also a parent of a child with a disability. And Michelle and I were talking, which is, those who know me, is no surprise, but we were talking about how there's just no support, no good support groups for parents, and that we would really love to develop a program that was led by parents with lived experience rather than by therapists or people that have not had the same journey, and that we would love a parent-led peer support group. And we went up the escalator at the convention centre in Sydney and turned to go into one of the lectures, and we walked into the Plumtree booth that was talking about Now and Next. So that is how we found this, and we felt like we hassled Plumtree for about 6 months of, we want your program, can we run your program here in Adelaide? And here we are. We launched our first one in May, and we have our second program starting in August, and now have our own local facilitators. So we are super excited about the outcomes that this can offer families and the support, and we want to share a little bit more about it with you today. So before I talk too much, we will take questions throughout the presentation. If you can type them in the chat section, and then if they're relevant, we can address them along the way, or we'll leave them till there's some breaks in the presentation. So I'll hand it over now to Silvana and Anik, and they can share a little more about this wonderful program.
Hi everybody, I'm Silvana Marmick. I run an organisation in Sydney, an early intervention organisation. I've been there for over 20 years, and the way I got into this kind of work was that my eldest son, Karim, who's 30 now, was diagnosed with a disability and developmental delay when he was 2.5 years old. And my background is primary school teaching, and when he was diagnosed with a disability, I went back to uni and did a master's in special education and integration. I wanted to know what I could do as a mum to help his development and for him to have a good life. And that was my journey. Then I moved from primary school teaching into early intervention, and I do run an organisation that employs therapists and early educators and peer workers and therapy assistants. But being a mother of a young man with a disability, I guess I've had a lot of experiences with him growing up, where I thought, there's more to creating a good life for my son than just therapy. Eat, drink, walk, talk, of course, was very important, especially when he was little. And there were things that we needed to know to help him to do all of those things safely and to teach him so that he could become as independent as possible. And but there was so much more to that, and I felt like I had to go along that journey myself and discover all of those things myself and learn by trial and error. And while I worked in the field and got a lot of support, encouragement, advice, motivation, inspiration from the families that I meet every single day as part of my job, I realized that there were things that I had discovered over time that I could share with families of younger children that I'd learned just through sheer effort over the years. And I one day met my lovely colleague Anik at a conference in Sydney, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a moment. Karim's got a significant intellectual disability and a severe communication impairment, but he runs a wonderful micro business called Karim's Mojo Disco. He's got cerebral palsy as well. And I'm going to, in a moment when I stop talking, I'm going to put a link to his Facebook page into the chat function. Every week on Tuesdays at 11 o'clock to 11:15, you can join him for a free disco energizing opportunity. So he runs a show with an actor performer, Sean, and his aim is to challenge people's understanding of disability and to share his energy and his positivity and his love of life with the broader public to help them to see disability in a new light. He has a significant intellectual disability. He does the show with Sean. He's got friendships. He's got sort of networks. He's got a micro business, and he's just got a wonderful life. Very very lucky. He's a great young man. But I guess in my work every day, I feel like I'm not giving parents the full and honest picture about what it takes to build a good life, because I run an organisation that provides therapy and education, and that's only part of the story. And so one day I was at a conference in 2014 or 15, and I went to some poster presentations, and there was this woman in a t-shirt sort of kind of look at me. And I went over to her presentation, and that was Anik, Dr. Anik Jansen, and she was talking about a project that she had just completed in New Zealand, where she had interviewed parents of children with disabilities with the aim of using those stories to share with other families. And I went, oh my God, this is for me. I need a part of this. This is exactly what I think that we need in our organisation, which is the missing part of the puzzle piece, which is there's a lot that we as parents have learned and can share and inspire each other with and motivate each other with. And her project and what she was doing as part of her career pathway at that point was really about shining a light on the experience and expertise that we as parents had. And that was it. I knew at that moment. There were other little serendipitous sort of things that happened that I just kind of went, we're going to be friends, we're going to work together. And sure enough, a year later, she was over in Sydney filming stories of families at Plumtree, and then that turned into Pictability, and then Now and Next. And I just want to pass over to my friend and colleague Anik to introduce herself and what she does, and also share a little bit about her son Yaniv, who's also a young man.
Thank you, Silvana. So you probably will hear very quickly from my accent that I was born and bred in Paris, and I decided to follow my husband all around the world in all his PhD adventures. He's a microbiologist, so we went to different places in the world, and but I study clinical psychology, and unlike Silvana, I was actually well engaged in clinical psychology before I had my third child with special needs. Clinical psychology is a very traditional discipline. The field of positive psychology was only just being born when I was studying, so I studied the traditional deficit model, and I must say I was never happy with it. And in fact, serendipity had it that I was working in a special education school for 5 years before I had my third child, who surprises us with all his gifts, including his ability to see situations differently to us through the spectrum lens. And so then at that point, we also decided that our family wanted to change, and we moved to the furthest possible point to where we were before, which was the Antipodes, which was New Zealand. I'm really, today when I see what's happening in the world, I'm really happy to be here. And I then embarked on a PhD to study leadership development, because I thought if things need to be changed in the world, we need to understand what is the engine, what's going to make this work. And so as soon as I finished my PhD, well, I first worked a little bit in corporates with Microsoft, etc., but I couldn't, my heart wasn't there. One day I was invited to give us just a presentation about my son's journey in school, and what I saw, there was a room full of parents who were like literally so engaged. They were all sitting in the edge of their seat thinking, how can I learn from your experience? And I thought, that's it, that's my family, that's my tribe. So I moved to the field of disability, and then when I did that project that Silvana's talking about with the families, the interviews, I interviewed more than 300 families, and the one question I asked them is, so they're all families with a child with disability, the one question is, tell me about one moment that you are proud that you have helped your child with. That was my one question, and those answers were very and showed me that yes, we could approach the field from the deficit model, but there's an entire field, the field of positive psychology, the field of strengths-based, that is actually just waiting to be uncovered. So I'm glad to be here with you today. And leadership is Nicole, Clayton, Martin, and Susie. These are the parents who just following us. We're parents too, and these are the leaders. So welcome to you.
Thanks, Anik. And why did we develop Now and Next? When I met Anik, I said to her, after we talked about family stories and the potential to share what we knew with other families so that families could learn as fast as possible from each other and get inspired by each other and to feel hopeful and to get ideas and to learn from each other, to be teaching each other, that I didn't have enough opportunities to do that. And so I ended up working in the field so that I could get that. And I said to Anik, one of the first things was when we moved on from the videos project, I said, Anik, we've got some money to create something to build families' capabilities, and we've only got this money for 2 years. Let's create something amazing that we can use beyond the next 2 years. Have no idea what it is, but let's just really think outside of the box and think, what could we do with this funding to help build families' capability and to create something long lasting that we can use beyond the funding cycle, because the NDIS was going to be introduced. And
Savannah, you asked me, what is the most innovative thing we can think of?
But probably what led to that was, I think we both agreed that we never wanted to attend another planning meeting ever again. And I just,
tell our story all over again.
Exactly. And also tell that story, which often is sad and, and hard, and, tearful, and to start meetings like that. And I said, when Karim finished high school, I said, I never want to go to another IEP meeting again, because they just were so bad in my experience. So when I said do something as innovative as you can, I think the challenge went out to try to create something in terms of a planning experience that really put families in the driver's seat. And we're going to share a little bit about that, in a couple of slides later on. But I guess we can just quickly go to the slide that shows the little time frame. So here's what we've done over the past 5 years. So in 2015, we piloted a program that ended up turning into Now and Next. Then we've developed. We realized that this wasn't going to be a program delivered one-on-one, which it was in 2015. It should be a group program. And when we actually piloted it as a group program, one of the fathers said at the end of the 8 weeks, because it was being presented by me and Anik, but also by some professionals from Plumtree who were involved. And at the end of the program, we asked families for feedback and how could we improve this program that we'd called Now and Next, and that was now being delivered in a group. There was about 16 or 20 families participating. And I remember one father said in front of the professionals, he said, this program should not be delivered by professionals. It should be delivered by parents. And Anik and I had been thinking that in our hearts, and we'd been talking about it because we realized that what we were sharing and what families were sharing with each other was so powerful and so important that in a way the professionals got in the way of that conversation and were talking about things in a way that didn't make as much sense to the conversations that we were having with each other as parents. And so in 2016, we started to train parents to be facilitators of the program. And then pretty much it took off from there. We started getting international interest. The programs went online about 1.5 years ago. We started, doing online training for professionals. And at the moment, what we're doing at Plumtree is we're trying to embed at the beginning of a family's experience at our organisation that they meet a peer worker at the same time that they're engaging with their early intervention organisation. So what we've realised is we can't leave it to accident for families to meet another parent who can show them, guide them, share with them, understand them in ways that professionals can't and shouldn't be able to. And what we're trying to do here is to bring parents as peer workers into the pathway of families as early as possible. So when families reach out for help, they're directed to professionals, and that's well and good and important. But what's complementary to that is being immediately introduced to knowledgeable peers who are trained in leadership, who are trained in helping families to see beyond where they're at now and into the next, as Anik said, with hope, vision, dreams for a possible, a wonderful future for their son or daughter, and with a focus on what they and their family can do right now, and not a focus on what they or their child can't do. So that's really where the program originated. Over 500 families now internationally have done Now and Next. Over 2,000 people have done Pictability, and we've got a lot of interest here in Australia, but also internationally, with what programs like this can do to build families' capability, and what families can do together as a collective to help one another, and how that complements the kind of professionally led services that sometimes we need for our children, for those different things that are important for them to do in terms of their developmental milestones and independence. So that's us. That's a little intro. We'd love for you guys to ask questions. Feel free to type them into the chat function, and then the lovely team at Can Jump Puddles will, at different point in today's webinar, let us know if there are some questions, and also there's some time at the end of the session to ask questions. But we'll go over to the slideshow now, and we'll take you through a little bit of the content and explain to you what the program's about.
Sure. I'm just going to share a little video that we've made. I'll just share that now.
I have a story to tell you.
Meron akong kwento para sa'yo.
我同你講一個故事啊。When my daughter was born, they called us in.
After the diagnosis, the doctor said,
My son would not walk. They said she may not talk.
but our life was going to be really challenging.
I felt completely overwhelmed.
We didn't really know where to go, who to listen to, and what steps we needed to take.
I was searching the internet every night.
Every single night.
And the more I read, the more my heart sank. Everyone was telling me what my son couldn't achieve. But then I joined a program called Now and Next.
As parents, we imagined what would have helped us when our children were little. So we developed Now and Next.
We wanted to give families hope for a future with possibilities.
But we also wanted to ensure that the program was robust and evidence-based.
So we turned to positive psychology. First, the families develop goals and then the strategies to achieve them.
We give families the tools to build on their strengths so that they understand what to do to help their child thrive and progress.
During the program, I learned skills that helped me achieve the best outcomes for my son.
I learned how to work with our supports and therapists to achieve what's best for my son.
We had the space, the time, and the permission to work out what we wanted as a couple and how we could achieve that.
The biggest lesson I learned was that looking after myself and the other people in my family helped our daughter too. We came to believe that our children have a lot of strengths.
And that we had the ability to change their futures.
Together, as a network of parents, we grew stronger. I looked at my parent facilitator and the other parents in the room, and I thought, if they can do this, I can too. By the end of the course, I thought to myself, I've got this. I've got this.
We've got this.
I've got this.
That's just a little film about the program that we tried to put together, I guess, all of the different voices that we'd heard from families to try and put it together into one place for people to sort of understand. We were talking about this before we came on, how it's very challenging to get across what the program actually does until you've been through it. And that's also why we wanted to bring Susie and Martin here today, so that they could share as well with you their experiences of it. But before we jump into that, we are just going to jump back over to Anik to talk just a little bit about some research that we've been collecting along the way through our journey. So I'll just bring up the slides here.
While you're doing that, Nicole, I'd just like to give credit for the video that was written, produced, acted, filmed by parents who had done the Now and Next program. There were a couple of actors in there where the parents didn't feel comfortable acting, but I think you recognised Clayton and Nicole, who are here today, and you recognised myself and Anik. So, that the script was written by Nicole and Clayton, and it was very much a family initiative. So I think that's really the spirit with which the program's all about, is families reaching out, connecting to other parents, and really showing them that there's a lot they can do to change their son or daughter's future and to improve their family's situation right now. And yes, the data shows that. So over to you, Anik.
Thank you. So I apologize that I have to go soon to another research meeting that is happening on Zoom. So I just, I was told to bring in my slides first, and it's not normally how we would start the program with research, but here we are. We talk about the program being evidence-based and informing evidence. And the reason we do this is because we as parents would not feel comfortable if we couldn't bring the most effective, impactful program and curriculum to other parents who we know have not a second to spare unless it's going to be really effective. So we check effectiveness all the time. This table here is to show you the variables that we look at before and after the program for the first 3 ones, and then we compare them. So if we look at well-being, empowerment, and hope, the parts in blue as how people are feeling before the program, and the parts in orange are how much they've added to that component, how much well-being they've added. And the parts in the little broken line that goes that's in gray is basically the top score of that particular variable, so you understand it's out of how much. So the one thing that I really enjoy looking at this is the hope one, because we can see that people add 20% more hope, and they're almost at the sort of the top score of hope, which I think is really important, because some of us have other children, and we want to have the same level of hope and inspiration and love to them as the other children, and so we need to gather the knowledge for that and help each other do that. So in terms of well-being, it's this scores were done over I think about 400 participants. This is the results of our global database. So we always, we check these variables, and then we benchmark against the rest of the participants. So well-being, an increase in 23%, empowerment, an increase in 21%, hope, as I said before, and program impact is also it's an overall measure, and there is an increase in 32% from session 1. So that does it for this slide. If we could have the next slide. The next slide is a drawing from one of our moms, and she's the one who made Pictability also. Most of the resources, most of the, all the stories, and probably all the resources that we use, they're parents generated. So some people come forward and say, oh, I'm good in statistics, can I help? While other people say, oh, I do design, can I help? So here's Jackie, who made a representation of what Now and Next program meant to her. Is all of us in this rocket, and we're building the partnerships with professionals. We understand the signature strengths ourselves, and then how to learn how to understand our children's signature strengths. And we're building our agency. So agency here is the belief that I can do something that's going to make a difference for my child. And all around you see the constructs from the positive psychology field. So it's about flourishing, which is a well-being concept, and it's about peer network. Like all together, we are more powerful, and we can build on each other's strengths. Also, as parents, we are each other's resource no matter what. We don't depend on another organization or funding or anything else, because if I have a connection with you during one of our next sessions, then that connection will be there always. So I think that's it for me. And
Anik, also just want to mention that South Australia is leading Australia in terms of embracing positive psychology. These at the Summary Centre in South Australia.
Yeah. Okay. So Professor Martin Seligman, who is the father of positive psychology, actually is a visiting visiting professor in Adelaide, and the whole state of South Australia is embracing positive education, and so all these concepts are really, really well embedded in education, but not at all in the disability sector. The disability sector is still mostly led by a deficit approach. It's mostly professional driven. And I am a professional too. I'm also a clinical psychologist, but I think that the secret is to find the right combination between the parents and the professionals, so that we get better results, because we have a common aim: is getting better results for the children. Over to you.
Thanks, Anik. So I'm just going to quickly talk through, I guess, what the 8 programs actually looks like when you attend. So you've heard both Silvana and Anika mention Pictability. So Pictability is a unique visioning tool that you'll experience if you do the program in session 1. And it's fun, it's gamified, so it's looking at setting a big picture vision for what you want for your child, but also what you want as a family and what you want as an individual as well. So it covers those 3 pillars. So that's session 1. And then we look at breaking down those sort of big picture vision into little tiny goals that we call first steps. And we look at that throughout the program. And I'm sure Susie and Martin will talk to you about anything that they've achieved last term. But we got a huge success with our last group at I Can Jump Puddles with achieving goals. So in the second week, we look at the family. Because we know that if the family is working well as a whole, that is better for the child as well. And we look at what the best outcomes for families are. And we also look at a tool that we use called goal to action, which is a way of breaking down goals and really nutting out what it is you need to change to achieve your goals. So we look at that goal to action in session 2 and also throughout some of the other throughout the weeks as well. In the third week, we focus in on the child, which is normally the reason why all the parents are there is for the child, but we do that in session 3, and we look at best outcomes for children, and we look at our child goal, and we look at unpacking how to achieve goals for our children. Then in session 4, 5 and 6, we look at a lot of positive psychology and some of the things that Anik was discussing there. So I know signature strengths is a favorite of Susie's. I don't know, did you want to talk to that one, Susie?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, signature strengths, I think for me was a particularly exciting week. I loved every week, but I think there was 2 major things about learning about signature strengths that helped me. And the first one was more personal. So it really gave me time to stop and reflect and be reminded about who I am as a person. So I think as parents of kids with extra needs, we can lose who we are, our foundations, and what makes us really tick and drive. So I loved going back and seeing again who I am, and what things make me happy and make me who I am. And I was able to bring back some things into my world that had disappeared when I realized all these things that make me had gone. There was nothing, I wasn't doing anything. So I reassessed, and and I'll give you an example. One of my signature strengths is love of learning. And so I sort of realized I haven't done that for a really long time, and that's really important to who I am. So I probably went a little overboard and started reading a lot, and I've signed up to do some study, but it has reminded me, and I guess it comes into the next one that we'll talk about as well with the oxygenate. It reminded me that I've got to be me to be my best for all my family. I have to be me. And the other thing is really for my son, when we're working towards goals for him, another one of my strengths is gratitude and appreciation. So, when you're working on little goals, they're not always so little. It can be really overwhelming. But I had the opportunity to step back and go, look at the gratitude, remember again who I am. And so, for example, one of our goals with Harry, with my boy, was to get him to start doing some taste, because he has everything through his peg. And it's a challenging thing. He can be good, he can be not so good. It's a messy situation. It takes some time. But I remembered again that I'm grateful that he has these days where he wants to try. I'm grateful that we have him. I'm grateful that we can sit and have that time with him. So it really reset and reminded me not to just cruise through and it be a task, but to think about the beautiful things and the strengths and when you do that, or when I did that, and I think it happens for everyone, your goals become easy. You can break them down a lot easier, and you really appreciate what you're achieving. It's beautiful. So, and that's, again, just mine was gratitude, but I just really, it stripped me back down to who I am as a person, which then in turn helped me and helps me to give my family my best.
Awesome. Thanks, Susie. So yeah, the Signature Strength and Personal Goal Week is a popular week, isn't it? And I think the thing that we looked at as well is how that translates. So you learn a little bit about the theory of it, but then we actually give some really practical tools. It allows us to think about how we can use signature strengths in relation to, as Susie said, in relation to our child goal. So how do we use what we're good at and what we're best at to help our kids? And then we've got the Oxygen Tank Circle of Control, Circle of Influence week. So I know Martin was very interested in Circle of Control, Circle of Influence, and he's been reading up on Stephen Covey. And also Oxygen Tank was particular to you as well, Susie. So I wanted to open it up to either of you two to talk to that.
Yeah, so the circle of control stuff was something that really got my attention. I actually read that book, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. I don't read. I'm not a reader at all. I never read books. So I downloaded it on audio book. I managed to listen to it from start to finish twice in 2 weeks, and I really took it on board. And it's just changed my life. It's changed my life forever. It's just changed the way I see everything. It's really just taught me a lot about just taking a step back, and that the change, any change has to come from the inside out. It can't ever work to go from the outside in. So it's just been an amazing journey for me. I can't believe that something that change could come so quickly and so easily as it has. I'm sort of a little bit annoyed that I didn't get onto it sooner, really. But yeah, amazing. Yeah, it's been really good for me.
Thanks, Martin. And Susie, did you want to talk to the Oxygen Tank specifically?
Yeah, sure. So this was another week that I really, really enjoyed. And I think it's, again, one of those things that we, excuse me, as parents, we all do it. Sort of, you don't give yourself permission to stop. You think you have to keep doing everything, and you just wear yourself out. And learning about the oxygen tank, and there's a really good analogy in there that you guys taught us about, like on the airplane, you've got to look after yourself before you can look after your family. And I really found it really important, and I still do it, every single day. Where's my oxygen tank? What do I need to let go of today? It is okay if you let go of some things, because, tomorrow I might be able to achieve a little bit more. So it was really nice to actually, I guess, in a way, know that it really is a thing, that it's valid, that you give yourself permission to let some things go when you're not at your fullest. Your oxygen tank isn't really full. And the other thing, prioritizing where that, if you have half an oxygen tank, where does that go? Prioritizing my time and giving my best to, in my case, my boys, making sure that goes to them. And thirdly, even little things, again, coming back to me, how do I fill that oxygen tank? So I went back to what makes me happy, got back into some more exercise, because that fills my tank, and that means I can give more to my family. So just beautiful steps in how to use it wisely and how to restock it when it's low. So I loved it.
Thanks, Susie. And then so in week 6, we look at PERMA. So PERMA is a framework for wellbeing, and it was developed by Professor Seligman, who Anik mentioned earlier. And it's a practical tool that we use with parents and carers to sort of look at where you're up to now with the different areas of wellbeing and what you might do next. So, and did you have anything else you wanted to add on the PERMA, Martin? I know you said that was...
Yeah. I'll just quickly just run through what PERMA stands for. So the P in PERMA stands for positive emotions. The E stands for engagement. R for relationships. M for meaning, and A for achievement. I've spent time with psychologists over the years dealing with issues that I've had, and I've never seen it broken down in that way before. And it just seemed to just make perfect sense to me, really. When it's broken down like that, you can focus easily on the areas where you perhaps don't need to worry too much, and on the areas where you do need to worry a little. You know, for me, it was meaning at that point in my life. When I came onto the program, I was going through a pretty difficult time with my business through the COVID stuff, and being able to pinpoint the areas of my well-being that I needed to work on was just fantastic. Yeah, and that's what led on to me reading the book of the 7 habits. But yeah, just never seen it broken down in that way before, and never looked at it as well-being. I've always looked at it as happiness. I've always just thought it's happiness that I'm chasing, and it's not really, it's well-being is what you're chasing so much, not so much Happiness. Because well-being for me leads on to happiness. I've just not seen it broken down in that simple way before. So that was really powerful for me. Yeah.
Thanks, Martin. Feel free to, as Silvana said, ask us questions in the chat and things as we're going along, because this is a bit of a fly through of all the different elements, but feel free to ask us any questions. In week 7, we talk specifically about partnerships with professionals, and this is a key component. Even though it's in session 7, it's sprinkled all the way through the program. And Silvana will talk about this in a little bit, so I might leave that one for now, because she'll come back to that later, but it's a critical one. And then in the final session, we look at all the tools in the toolkit that we've sort of learnt through the weeks and unpacked, and actually it's not just learning, it's actually, you go away each week and you put it to practice, and then you come back and you reflect on how did it go, what worked, what didn't work, and as a group we can unpack and help each other along through the journey. But that final week is all about how do we make this sustainable. It's easy to do an 8-week program and to learn the techniques and do it all while you're meeting weekly. But then after that, how do we keep going? So this is looking at how do we integrate all these great tools moving forward so that we can keep on the upward trajectory. So that's a little bit of an outline, I guess, of the 8-week program. It's at 2 hours on Zoom. So it's interactive. It's not like you just sit back and listen as you are doing right now. It's more like what Martin and Susie and Silvana and I are doing, like chatting. And we definitely want you, to be seen and contribute. And that's that participation is so important. But also what's good about Zoom is if it is a terrible day and the kids are sick and we've had, we've actually had a mum join from the hospital en suite, when her daughter was having a sleep study. So, you can put yourself on mute if you need to and do other things as well. So that's the beauty of doing it via Zoom. So we do have a little film that we wanted to show you guys just about pictability. Is there anything you wanted to say about pictability, Silvana, before I bring up the...
Well, just to say that after 18 years of doing plans with professionals, I never wanted to do another one again. And the challenge to Anik and myself was, how do we reimagine planning so that we can make this an experience that is truly our experience and that we get something out of, but starting from a positive place. And the whole program Now and Next, you might be asking yourself, how does all of this link with my child? This does link with your child. Having a vision, for a positive future for your child and for yourself and for your family is where this whole program starts. Being able to feel that you've got enough reserves and feeling well enough yourself to be able to manage day to day to achieve the wonderful things that you've planned for your son or daughter makes a difference, because you've got to have the energy yourself to be able to do this. And when families feel resilient and when they're thriving, their child thrives, then the outcomes for the children will come. So that's really where this whole planning experience started. Nicole, over to the film.
Oh, here we go.
Life. Sometimes it doesn't go to plan, especially when you're the parent or carer of a child with a delay or disability. You seem to always be on the go, but left wondering if you're actually getting anywhere. What if we told you you don't have to feel like this? Pictability allows you to catch your breath. Have a play, follow the steps, take your time. By the end, you'll be reconnected with what's important to you, your child, and your family without even realizing it. That's just how Pictability works. Pictability helps you turn what's important into what's achievable. What's achievable then turns into a map for a great life, your family's life. And before you know it, you're on your way.
So that's Pictability. I'll just bring back the slides for one moment. Okay, so I was just going to get you, Silvana, maybe to talk to us a little bit more about families partnering with professionals and why that is a critical element of the program.
Firstly, thank you to Martin and Susie for sharing what they got out of joining the Now and Next program. It is not an isolated situation to hear what Susie and Martin have said, is that something clicks for every parent who does Now and Next. Something clicks for individuals, whether it's one of the sessions or, you know, whether it's something within a session or whether it's something that a family says. People have the experience that I can see that Martin and Susie had, which is that they are different people as a part of doing the Now Next program. And Martin, you said, I changed from the inside out. And I think that this is really important, because the single most important influence on our child's development, all of our children, not just those who have disabilities, but in particular our children who have disabilities or delays, the single most important influence on them is us as family members, as a mother or as a father or as the carer. And what happens in the early years is that often we think that it's the professionals that make the biggest difference. And I run, as I said to you, an organization that's filled with amazing professionals. And from time to time, my son, who's 30, still needs professionals for specific areas that he's having some challenges with. But what we're trying to help families to understand as part of the Now Next program is that we families have got the biggest impact on our child's life. And we know how to do this. We can do this with the right skills, resources, tools, networks, encouragement from other parents. We can do this in a way that perhaps we hadn't understood that we could. And I'm in a way jealous that Susie and Martin have said what they said today, because their children are little. It took me till my son was 18 or early 20s to feel I understood what they understand now. And the whole point of Now and Next is to try to fast track families' understanding so that they realize what potential they have as parents to make the difference right now. And thank you, Martin, and Susie, because I really enjoyed hearing what you had to say that made a difference for you, but also to feel that the whole purpose of developing Now and Next was, how can we get families to learn this faster? They shouldn't have to learn this by accident, and reinvent the wheel over, and for this to take them 20 years to realize, can we help people understand this sooner? And that really links with what I'm just going to talk about for a moment, which is how we partner with families, with professionals, how families partner with professionals. As I said, professionals are important. Eat, drink, walk, talk, whatever other specialist services that we may need from time to time. If we need those, what we try to explain in the Now Next program and to help you experience is that we can lean into that relationship with professionals because we are the expert on our children. We are. And the professionals that we work with have expertise that we can tap into. And together, this is complementary, and that we have to work in partnership much more collaboratively and actively with professionals in order to make a difference. In my work, running an organisation that supports children with disabilities, a lot of the professionals talk about having to push families like a boulder up a hill. And that just doesn't make sense to me. Why are we pushing families up a hill? Why aren't we working together, families, with the professionals? What happens is not, in terms of intervention, is not the session. The intervention is what happens in between the sessions, because we as families do need to learn some things about how our child can eat more safely or communicate better, or to be able to sit in a safe way, or learn how to walk, or learn how to have friends. Whatever it is that our children need to learn, there are professionals who can help us, and there is knowledge out there from those professionals that can help us, but they are not the solution. As Martin said, the change comes from within. If we make that change within, if we tap into the knowledge that professionals have, that's when we're actually going to get the best out of the specialist services that we tap into. The specialist services are not the answer. We are the answer. We need to find those specialists that are right for us and right for our children and families, but also we need to bring a new energy and a new understanding and a new commitment to that relationship with our professionals in order to get the best out of that. And nobody makes a difference to our child and our family like we do. And this session and the whole program is about being able to tap into that. Over back to you, Nicole.
I just took the slide down because I was enjoying listening to you talk so much. I wanted to see your face. We were just going to talk quickly about the theory of change and what you're hoping to do, I guess, on a broader scale with
Yep. Well, one program of 8 weeks, one session of Pictability is not enough to make a difference forever and ever. It is one part. It is the first step in the journey. It's an opening up and a pathway. And what we're trying to do with Now and Next is only part of the story. So in this little table, you'll see, and Nick talked a little bit earlier about the evidence-based. We wanted to bring something as professionals who work in this field to families that was evidence-based. Now and Next is not a support group, although I'm sure that people will get a lot of support from it. This is about skills for you, for your family, for your child. This is about learning how to do things differently. So it's on the right-hand column in the teal color. You'll see that we're working with 3 groups of people. The first group is for families. So we want families to be exposed to a program like Now and Next. We hope that in the future there will be others. We want them to attend workshops, to attend groups, to become a part of an alumni, to meet and talk with families who've had this mindset shift and who can support and encourage and motivate each other. So we want to work with families, and we do that through this program and through Now and Next and through Pictability, and through engaging families. What Sam's trying to do in South Australia is to unite families in a way so that you can support one another, so that it's complementary to the work and the supports and expertise that Sam's providing and the people in her team are providing. And in the middle, we're working with another group of people. So we have Susie and Martin here today. They are going to become facilitators of the Now and Next program in South Australia. And we want to build their leaders as leadership as peer workers. We want to provide training to them so that they can run this program with families. And we want to develop peer workers as a workforce, so that alongside other professionals, families with the lived experience of their child with a delay or disability are trained and working in this field alongside professionals and working with families. And then also on the third column to the left is we also want to work with professionals, like the professionals who are working at Can Jump Puddles, professionals all over the country and internationally who are in this organisation or this business to make a difference with children and families. They've entered this as a career choice because they want to work with children and families and make a difference in their lives. And we're trying to show them that working in partnership, in collaboration with peer workers, activating family leadership, showing families how they can also work in partnership with us, you know, to be able to work in a good partnership. Families need some skills and also the professionals need some skills. So we hope to be working through these three groups so that as we work up from the bottom, we start with positive psychology, work with these three groups of people, engage at what we're calling a collective benefit mindset, getting families and professionals, everybody to be working together, and that we overall what we're trying to achieve is building family capability through families participating more, participating in their planning, participating in their child's early intervention, participating in helping their child, you know, build a wonderful and hopeful and happy life. So that's really, I just wanted to kind of give you a little snapshot that this, you know, we're not about just the Now and Next program or a Pictability session. This is bigger than that. And we just wanted you to get a little snapshot of where Now and Next and Pictability sits within that.
Beautiful. Thanks, Silvana. So guys, I Can Jump Puddles. I'm not sure, has any questions come in for us?
No questions in the chat as of yet.
So feel free to put your questions in the chat now, guys, if you've got one. Maybe I'll ask Clayton a question. So Clayton's my other half, so I can be cheeky. Clayton or Martin, tell us about why dads should do it.
Okay, so yeah, well, when I signed up for it, I wasn't really aware of. Well, the group was mainly full of. Well, it was all girls. It was all women apart from me. There was one other guy, another dad, but he didn't say much, which is fine. But yeah, at first I thought, oh crikey, this is all girls. You know, I felt really uncomfortable. But I could have gotten over it fairly quickly. It's not really that big a deal, you know. And it's, yeah, I think it's great for dads to do it. It's not, I don't see why it should just be the girls that get to do it. I think it's equally powerful for the men to get involved as well. In fact, more so in many ways, I think. But yeah, I'd hope to try and get more males involved if I can as I move forward with it all. So yeah.
Great, thanks, Martin.
Yeah, probably the only thing I'd add to that is not just about men doing it, but about, I found benefits that I didn't expect by doing it as a couple when I did it. And it's something about, we sort of just fell into demarcations of who would do what at home and who would do what in our therapies and what we were doing with Harry and research and becoming experts, which, as we all know, we're forced to do suddenly out of the blue, become experts in a field we may know very little about. And my wife Nicole took that on, and I was pretty good on the domestics and such, and shared in looking after our son, but to actually learn together and to say, you know what, we're going to chart the journey together and we're going to be a part of this experience together. So not just share it and each have a role, but actually share the roles and understand what each other are doing together. And that to me was one of the most unique things about that program, was doing it as a couple and sharing that journey. There are extraordinary things about it. I was dragged kicking and screaming to do it. Spare time is a very precious commodity, very rare. So, but I went along just because I like a peaceful existence, and I thought it was about goal setting, and I'm pretty good at setting goals. I'm a bloke. We know how to set goals, and wow, it is a program that until you've done it, as Martin was explaining and reminding me fantastically earlier, Until you do it, you just don't know how much you need it. And there are certain changes that occur, again, quoting Martin, from within that the program allowed me to access, and allowed us to access as not just a wife, husband, but as a family with Harry as well. And little things like, I say little, but the 5 windows for me was just life-changing. Instead of thinking, what therapies do I need for our son? Where do we need to be driving him? What can we fit in? What are we missing out on? Where are we failing? We're able to sit back and say, hang on, what have we got? And we started realizing how much we had, the network, what the people around us, how we could change the environment. Changing the environment was huge to realize how we could affect the way the family works. Achieving goals by setting time aside just to do something instead of thinking, no, there's more important things to do. Then, surely there's therapy we could be doing. It's really something that I'm stumbling off track, but taking it on as a family is something I think is what's so valuable about it and why it's so well designed as a program. It's family, it's individual, and it's like everything in our lives, all about the child.
That's good. I love hearing from the dads. I can't wait to get some more dads involved. I think, no matter mum, dad, carer, everyone's going to benefit some way. I've just got a really nice message here from Emily that's just sent through. She's just thanking us, or thanking you guys as well for presenting, that it's a positive program and will benefit so many families once professionals and families become aware of it. She also agrees that parents are the people who know their children best, and working positively with the professionals can make a huge difference to the family. I've also got one question from Jeannie. What is the age range? So this is something that I'm sure you guys will have lots to say about.
We did develop the program for families of little children because I work in early childhood intervention, and I believe that we need to get families off on the right start with the right messages right from the start. It's very hard to give families the message that the professionals are in charge and they're the ones that are going to do everything. They're the expert, the solutions lie with them. If we start with that messaging, then it's very hard to help families to shift away from that. So we designed the program with families of very little children in mind. We know what it means to get all of these kind of things sorted, making sure you look after yourself, understanding how to work with professionals, remaining positive on a hopeful vision for your son or daughter, and just getting started and doing it. We know how important that is for families of very little children. So we designed the program for families of little children, but we have had families of older children join in the program. And as a matter of fact, at Can Jump Puddles, there were families of much older children, in fact, adults who were in the program. So I'll leave that up to Sam to kind of negotiate with all of you in terms of if you're interested and how it will work. I actually think that there's a lot that I, as a family member of a young man, an adult who has a disability, can share with families of little children. And I think that seemed to work in your first group where you had families of older children who had adults, that they were sharing important information. So I don't think that there's anything problematic about families of older children joining in the group. It's just that we did develop it for families of little children. Picking up on what Martin said as well a little bit, and I just want to throw to him because I think he was going to say something else. Over 20% of the families, over 500 families who have done it, over 20% of the participants are fathers. We've got much higher involvement of fathers in this program than in our early intervention in the organisation that we run. So that is really important. And then we have a very high engagement level of families from culturally diverse background. Over 60% of families who've done the program are from a culturally diverse background. This is for everybody. My mother is 83 and she says, Silvana, this program is not just for parents of children with disabilities. This is for every parent. This is for every family member who has a child. This is not just for the parents, but it's also if the parents engage with the content, it will influence the way they parent, it will influence them, and it will influence the outcomes for their child. But Martin, were you going to say something a little earlier on?
I was just going to say about, just to add to what Clayton was saying, I think that if a couple can engage in the process together, like Michelle and I did, Michelle my wife and I did the program at the same time, and we used separate screens. It's just having two people learning together. It just creates a synergy, if you will. You know, it's more than it's double the learning, but it's more than double the benefit. And it just happens all by itself. You know, it just happens by itself, and it's a beautiful thing. You know, I just wanted to add that. That was all. Yeah.
I might just add in response to Jeannie's question about the age range for the program. We are very much here happy to offer the program to any age. With the first one that we ran at Puddles, we had about 3 parents of children that were over 18, and they did, you know, and we're happy to share, you know, if they're happy to share their experience of it with you. And it seemed the mix of, there were some families with younger children, because we haven't had anything like this in South Australia before. You know, no one's had the opportunity to, as Silvana said, it would be great if everybody was able to do this under early intervention. However, you know, majority of our families haven't had that. And so, you know, you can still definitely get benefit from it with an adult, you know, young adult and a young man or a young woman, particularly when you're going through transitions. It's like starting a new journey. So we don't have any limit on that, but we would recommend that you speak to Sky, who is a facilitator, also works at our office here, and is a parent, and she would be more than happy to sort of chat with you about suitability for the program. The only thing I would say, and I have talked to now Plumtree about this, is some of the resources in the Pictability are pitched more at early intervention. So, but I'm a mum of 3 teenagers, and I have done the program myself, and I agree with what Silvana's mum said. Any parent benefits from this program, and even though some of the resources in Pictability look like they're for young children, you can still definitely visualise it for an adult young person as well.
We've just got a message, I think that's from our Michelle. Martin's other half. Michelle's just mentioning that once we do have everyone together grouped in, we do plan on having little clusters. So if we do have an older group of, what was I going to say, kids, older, well, I don't know, kids, adults, the right word, we will cluster those parents together, hopefully.
And also just would like to add, here in South Australia, we are offering it via Zoom, but our vision would be to offer a mixture of face-to-face and via Zoom of the program. And what we will be offering is, and what we did at the end of our inaugural Now and Next, is we facilitated a catch-up. So the parents were able to get together and meet each other, which was a lot of fun, and we would be looking at helping facilitate some of that. We're just in the background facilitating for the peer group, so we would be happy to do that, and we'll be doing that with the next one. And certainly throughout the program you do get a closed Facebook group, so you can start to build some relationships with the parents that are sharing with you throughout the program, and we would love to continue that, so facilitating and supporting you guys to continue with that network after the program is finished. Yeah.
I just popped in the chat there, just for anyone who's a research person who would like to know more about the research. There's our external evaluation. There's just a link to that. I guess especially if there's any professionals out there who are watching, you might be interested in that as well.
Awesome. I was just about to say, if there's any other questions while we've got the team here, probably send them through now. Otherwise, thank you so much, guys. I've loved listening to all of you talk about everything, all the little stories as well. I think that's what actually makes it so good, is hearing from directly you guys, your own stories, your own experiences. And it really gives everyone a good idea of, I guess, why they should be doing it.
I think though sometimes I need to cry.
Do you know, Sam, when Karim and I were presenting, about, how he was using self-managed individualized funding from when he left high school, and how that was, helping him to lead a wonderful life, kind of like what your NDIS funding should do, I would get teary, and then he would just slap me playfully on the back of my head, because he was there to talk about his wonderful life. And I was there still kind of coping with it all. And what I learned in those moments was that he and I had to go our own ways. And that's why he's got his own micro business now and his own show, because his life is bloody awesome from his perspective. And instead of seeing how awesome his life was and how much he loved his life, I was stuck somewhere else. And I just had to let go of that and make room in my oxygen tank to look after myself and let him flourish, thrive, fly, be who he needs to be as a young man. So this is all about our kids. I know it felt like this was about us, but this is all about our kids and being able to help our children throughout their childhood become as independent and to find their niche and to be who they need to be as a young adult. We build that with our children throughout their childhood and their teenage years. And when your child has a disability, perhaps we don't know all of the steps we need to do in the same way that we have done with our other children. And this is about bringing that to families so that we can pop out these amazing adults when they're 18. And it's never too late to start.
I think you have to share Corinne's Facebook page with us all so that
she's just popped it.
It's on the chat.
I did. If you're free at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday, join in for a bit of Mojo Disco.
I'll be joining in. I think I need some.
I think
Mojo.
joining in.
Awesome. I'll sign everyone up. I quickly mention to everyone that's watching about our next dates and how to get in touch with us here at Puddles, obviously in Adelaide. So our next session program is starting on, I think it's Tuesday the 4th of August. So I've got some more information about registering. So you can just get back in touch with us here at the office. And I'm going to send everyone as well, just to recap everything from today.
So our next session will be run by Susie, Martin and Sky, who, as I said, some of you might have met here. So, and the lovely Nicole will be in the background helping us. So yeah. Thank you everyone for joining in, and we have recorded today's session, so we will share it with you, that you can then share it. Great.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.